The funding for this program was made possible by a grant from the Diocese of Arlington, established in 1974 by Pope Paul VI. You know, the Arlington Diocese has 69 parishes, 5 missions, covering 21 counties, and has 2 Catholic colleges, 5 Catholic high schools, and 43 elementary schools. They're all now under the leadership of His Excellency Bishop Michael F. Burbidge. For more information, contact arlingtondiocese.org. Hello and welcome to Catholic Life, brought to you each week for your enjoyment. I'm your host, John Buckreys, and today my topic is the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in the Diocese of Arlington. And my guest over here, Bob Hart, thank you for coming on, and George Dagden, right, and Mary Pat Egan. You know, I read an article in the Catholic Herald, and that's why I invited you on. You folks were on many years ago, and I understand you have a great video to start the show.
Right.
Can we see that video first off?
Let's watch it.
All right, let's watch that video.
The Society of St. Vincent de Paul is a Catholic lay organization whose members seek to grow spiritually and to serve the needy and suffering. The foundation of the society is very simple. It relies on local lay volunteers drawn from every ethnic and cultural background, age group, and economic level, organized into small, typically parish-based groups called conferences. These people, called Vincentians, deliver assistance and comfort to people in need. The mission of the Society is as follows. Called by baptism and inspired by gospel values, the members of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul seek to grow spiritually and to serve the needy and suffering in a spirit of justice and charity. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul was founded in Paris, France in 1833, where a young Frederick Ozanam and several other college students were debating the truth of the Catholic Church. Frederick and his friends were challenged to prove that their church was dealing with the social problems of the day. Frederick's response was one of action. With his friends, he formed a new society modeled after the great French priest, St. Vincent de Paul. Like Vincent, they sought out the poor, sick, and neglected who had no one to care for them. They went to Sister Rosalie Rendu, a daughter of charity, who mentored them and led them to the homes of the poor, where they brought food, clothing, and most importantly, friendship. And through this beginning was born the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. 13 years later, in 1845, the Society of St. Vincent de Paul began to form in the United States. The first parish conference was established in St. Louis, Missouri. From this initial meeting, the society spread quickly throughout the country. In parish after parish, in city after city, the society grew. Much of the early work of the society focused upon the needs of struggling immigrant groups. But the work of the society was far-ranging from the beginning, as each new conference assessed the needs of people in their own community, and then set about meeting those needs in a way they do best.
Hello, how are you?
Okay, how you doing?
Today, the society continues to serve the needs of the poor on a one-to-one basis. It also serves through many special works, such as the familiar thrift stores that provide furniture, clothing, and personal goods for people in need. Prison ministry provides help for the incarcerated. Food pantries and soup kitchens give food to the hungry. Medical and dental clinics provide health care for many of the underserved. It is said that no form of charity is foreign to the society. And yet, the society is facing many challenges for the present and the future. As we experience a decrease in the role of the government to deliver assistance to the poor, there must be an increase in the role played by others. And notably, It calls for an increase in the role of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. To meet these challenges, the Society has launched a strategic plan which sets new goals to enhance the scope of its work, including the formation of new members. We want to increase our membership through conference revitalization, striving for diversity in age, race, and ethnicity. Advocacy for the poor is a priority. This lobbying effort, called the Voice of the Poor, encourages us to become effective national and local advocates for the rights and needs of those people who are poor.
Taking care of the emergency needs that a family has for food or clothing or making sure there's electricity or heat in the home, that's the short-term advocacy role. And the long-term advocacy role is to take care of looking at these kinds of social policies that are creating those kinds of problems and what can be done to change those.
Another goal is to increase communication, both within the society and to the public. Internally, we can learn much from each other. Communicating externally will help tell our story and attract new members and support. Collaborating with other organizations of goodwill is another priority. The Society seeks to work closer with other Catholic organizations and other agencies that serve the poor. Through our twinning program, conferences are able to share their resources with other conferences that have a greater need. The Society is also reaching beyond the borders of the United States through international twinning, whereby our conferences are able to help support the activities of conferences in least developed countries. This International Society of Friends is less than 200 years old, yet has a membership of over 700,000 worldwide. More than 120,000 of those members are here in the United States, where we spend over $300 million a year assisting 15 million needy and poor. Although the Society of St. Vincent de Paul is renewing itself to meet the challenges of today and tomorrow, the most important characteristics of the Society remain unchanged. The Society provides an opportunity for women and men to grow in holiness, to become a community of faith, and to serve those who are suffering and poor.
Prayer and reflection is very important in the conference life because it centers everyone. It keeps everybody focused on why we're there. The reflection of the spiritual reading brings back to our Vincentian spirituality why we're doing the work we do and the impact that we have on the people we serve. So it brings it all back to our Christian faith and our sense of being a Catholic. That's our way to live out, put our faith into action. So the prayer is the basis for that. The action is the service that we're doing, so it brings it all back with the reflection.
Home visits are the core of Vincentian service to the poor, providing both material and spiritual assistance.
You're able to see actually how the people are living, what kind of problems they actually have, and what the need is that they have. And unless you are visiting them and making contact with them, that is really the only way you can determine that. Many times they just need someone to listen or someone to talk to. Many of them are lonely, and so we as Vincentians can bring other things to these people. They might just want to pray sometimes. So those are some of the things that we can bring to them.
Vincentians constantly strive to see the features of Jesus Christ in the poor.
When we visit our families, we truly find the presence of Jesus, but we also know that we are evangelized by our families, by our friends, that we have grown closer to our Lord by service to our neighbors. Some way, somehow, our Lord being there with us, we can actually see Jesus present in these families, and some way, somehow, they'll see Jesus in us. And it's so important to recognize how much we can become closer to our Lord by loving Him and our neighbors.
Because in the poor, Vincentians see the face of Christ.
That was a beautiful video. You do great work at St. Vincent de Paul. You know, I read in the Catholic Herald about an article, and that's why I brought you on. In fact, I'm going to turn the show right over to you folks.
All right, very good.
Go ahead for it.
Thank you. That video tells you all about what the Society of St. Vincent de Paul has been and what it can do. We're in the Diocese of Arlington, which is all of Northern Virginia, and we are in 3 parishes in the county of Fairfax. And we do all kinds of works, mainly to try to help people change their lives for the better. We're involved in emergency assistance, we're involved in disaster relief, and personal aid. So right now I'll turn it over to Mary Pat and let her tell you about some of her experience.
Well, Bob, one of the things we do is home visits. That makes us a little more unique than a lot of other organizations, and our goal is to do as many as possible.
When you say home visits, elaborate that a little more.
We go into the home, or they come into our office at church, at our administration building. But we go into the home, and that way we get to meet people as people.
One-on-one.
Human beings, one-on-one. We get to talk with them, converse with them. And very often when they call us, they tell us they need one thing. They kind of skim the surface. We get in, we talk with them, we see their greater needs. Classic example, I was on the helpline one day, it was last October, and I received a very emotional phone call from a woman who had just lost her sister, who was her only sibling. She was 11 years younger than her sister. Her sister had helped raise her because her mother was a single mom, and she was her best friend. In addition to that, she was her daycare provider for her 5-year-old son. The woman suffered a stroke. She lasted approximately 5 days to a week and passed on. In addition to that, she also was going to have to take custody of her 2 children, her 2 youngest teenage children. So now this single mother has 4 children and a job in a small apartment. So she called me for assistance for food. Well, I hold the food cards, so I had said, well, could you meet me at the administration building at church, and I will give you some giant food cards along with a gas card. So that would be wonderful. So she arrived with her little 5-year-old son. She was very emotional. And we sat and we talked, and she told me the whole story. And I said, well, you know, in addition to food cards, what could you use? Well, she said, I could use some food. Well, it so happened that we had a pantry with food at our church. We had a food collection. So she went in and she got about 4 bags of food, in addition to the food cards and the gas card. And I said, you know, we still have some money in our budget. Do you have any immediate needs? She said, well, yes, my car insurance is due this week, and I don't get paid until Friday. So I said, well, you know, we could take care of that. And she said, well, and then when I do get the paycheck, since I missed so much work, my paycheck is going to be short, and I'm not going to have the exact amount of money I need for my rent. So I said, well, you know, just about how much do you need? She said, well, it's going to be about $630. She already had like $400. So I remembered an organization that we work with, and it's a women's organization, and their ministry is to help women who are struggling, mostly single mothers, who lack a safety net.
Right.
Well, I thought, you know, this woman fits that criteria.
So you gave her the information for that?
So what I did was I submitted it because they were meeting that week. And I told her, I said, you know, there are no guarantees. I have no idea how many people will be applying for this. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. So we submitted it. Within a week, I received a notice from the organization saying they had raised the entire amount of the money that we needed. So we were able to cover her car insurance, her rent. She needed clothing for the children. So happened we were having a coat drive at church. So we were able to get coats for her and her children, as well as scarves and gloves. And then I said, well, you know, we're having Thanksgiving dinners. One of the churches in our parish is having Thanksgiving dinners delivered to people. Would you be interested? Well, sure she would. And then she said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do at Christmas. I said, well, you know, our conference has an adopt-a-family program. So we were able to adopt her family for Christmas. And then I was able to connect her with Fairfax County Social Services, where she could get the information she needed to gain custody of the children and hopefully be able to get benefits. So this is one of those examples where a home visit or an office visit is really helpful.
And there's probably many, many stories like that.
Many, but that's fairly recent. And it was, you know, one of those things I thought about as I was preparing today. And then at Christmas, she sent pictures to me of the Christmas tree with all the gifts underneath. And I said, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
George, how old do you have to be before you can join St. Vincent de Paul? I mean, is there any prerequisites? Or, I mean, what kind of volunteers are you looking for to join?
Well, anyone of any age. I mean, we have members who don't drive at night. We have people who work during the day. We have youth groups, youth that participate with us in projects and activities. So there's no age barrier for participating with St. Vincent de Paul.
Well, now, tell us a little more about St. Vincent de Paul, because that's a great organization.
We have instituted an alternative loan program to help people who are in debt from loan programs.
Is that what this is?
And that's what this was all about.
Yeah.
And George is going to tell us about that.
Yeah, the loan program has